This is an open letter to, with all due respect, to the leaders of the judiciary of any constituency that you're living in. And, planet-wise, I'm talking to the leader of the judiciary body. Folks, the head of the you understand that what you approve of, what you put your stamp of approval on, must be in line within where the people are right now, and not where you wish them to be. In the evolutionary ladder that the society is, from the most primitive to the most progressive, the evolutionary ladder that they go up on, it's an evolutionary ladder. So it's obvious. That much of it is obvious. And so you have to legislate, you have to put your stamp of approval, the top judges of a nation have to put their moral stamp of duty on legislature. Now, then you have to be very careful what you put your stamp on. If your stamp is the word of God, then you better it has the value of the word of God in your nation, because your nation has become a little more to their senses, and they're thinking more logically and less spiritually. Those nations who have evolved into thinking more intellectually and less spiritually towards what spiritually is good, religiously, let's put it this way, those who have not adapted and moved on from looking at stuff more religiously into looking at stuff more practically. Those who haven't moved on, don't move on from myths and legends and mythology and all of that. Those who haven't moved on from that, if you see your society has moved on from that, you should move on. And the idea that you do understand that what you say in a civilized society, what you say is the word of God, equivalent to the word of God. So you have to be careful what you decide on your decisions, on your decisions that you make. For example, the recent decision that allowed all kinds of money into politics. So sort of like anybody can advertise for their friends on TV when it comes election time, of any level, for whatever. If you have money, honey, spend it. If you have a favorite son, spend it for that favorite son, so he can become elected, or adopted sons, I don't care. It's sort of like you find it, if you're rich and you find a favorite and you start funding their campaign, because it's a favorite, this is favorite person to represent. But who has the kind of money to spend on their favorite person this much? Who has that? Somebody who has a rich person. Let's not beat around the bush. A rich person has, in a capitalist society, a rich person has enough money to give to friends and family if they want. Rich people do that. poor people have nothing to donate to friends and family. So rich people donate to friends and family, and these friends happen to be politicians, happen to be on the same wavelength of the rich. So, they're friends. They understand each other. So a politician that understands a rich person, and a rich person that understands a politician, that's where we are now in war, with this kind of democracy that's interwoven with capitalism. Why? Because the leader of the free world decided that, yeah, it's okay, we can have money in politics. We can go spend on your friends and family as much as you like. It's free speech. It's not. It's not. Money is not speech. Money is much more persuasive than speech. In a capitalist format that we are living under, money is much more persuasive than speech. The whole concept of the movie about the infidelity that had to happen so the guy can make a few bucks to pay his bills. In that movie, it's basically indecent proposal. In that movie, the idea is you can buy. You don't have to. You can speak all night if you want. You think the guy is going to let you sleep with his wife? You can speak all night as you want. The guy is not going to. It doesn't matter how good a speaker you are, how good an orator you are. At the end of the night, the guy is not going to agree with you banging his wife. But the guy offers a couple of $1 million, he doesn't have to be a great orator. He just have to echo what you say. It's sort of like he just has to get enough money to become your talking head. Accept the transition. Accept the transaction. So this whole idea that speech is equal money, no. A great speech would not, have the 70-year-old spend a night with your wife. And not a great speech. Nothing would do. But a couple of $1 million, I guess, yeah, of course. Means that I pay off all the enslavement that I'm carrying, all the chains of enslavement of capitalism that I'm carrying as debt. A few $1 million means I pay all that debt, and then I, get to move up in grade in the capitalist system. Oh, okay. No problem. So what happens is that movie, Indecent Proposal, if all of you folks from high classes that ended up in Supreme Court, you folks, if you haven't seen Indecent Proposal, please watch Indecent Proposal and tell me that money is speech, is equivalent to speech. No, it's not. You're giving for you can do things with money that you can never do with speech. Doesn't matter how big a microphone you have. You can do things with money that you cannot do with speech, because you have chosen a capitalist system. In the capitalist system, you may buy a night with the guy's wife with money. They don't accept speeches. They don't trade speeches. So the point is this, folks, the judiciary of whatever jurisdiction you are at the top of. Here's the thing, as one of the lower forms of life on this planet, I think you should, review that case. The case of is speech money? Is money speech? So if you have more of it, you can talk louder, speak more, get more airtime. If you got more money, you get more airtime. You got a lot of money, you have your own, TV channel. You have sort of like, Mr. Bezos it's clear that, from the history that one of the first things that he did with sudden windfall of cash was went and bought a, previously respected newspaper, just to make sure he has a voice. It wasn't, he has a voice. What better voice than, having it said through a newspaper, established newspaper, with some kind of reputation. So that's why money is not speech. We can hear from, Fox News what a certain group wants us to hear, and we can hear from MSNBC, we can hear what a certain group wants everybody to hear. But the guy who's paying, and please don't pay me, it's because of advertisement. This is the system the way it is. Yes, I know the system is the way it is, but that's why, because the whole capitalist system, the whole concept of advertisement and creating a need that doesn't exist, blah blah blah, sells more money, more profits. Yes, that we know all the whole game shaboom of capitalism. But what is said is that don't allow business to enter into capitalism, capitalism to enter into democracy. What we are saying is don't allow capitalism to enter into democracy, period. Because democracy, so one of the first things that would happen in a democracy that capitalism has not been allowed to interfere with, they say separation of church and state. You should have separation of business and state. Separation of business and state. The fucking British have the civil servant kind of a deal. Civil servants are the state. Politicians come, politicians go. Civil servants are the state. And they are separate from the church, and they are separate from the business. They don't allow business leaders, business partners to come, into civil service and back and forth and back and forth. But it apparently in, Uncle Sam's land, Uncle Sam, I love you, man, but your managers have set up this deal that, there is no civil servant. And the civil servants are, changed with the party. And you're like, are you kidding me? It's sort of like, the whole election thing has become very toxic with money. Vested interest puts money into interest in order to, bring about profits. You have a business in mind and you invest in it to bring about a profit. You have an idea, you put money on a candidate who you think best represents your idea, is on the same wavelength as you, understands your idea and wants to execute your idea, and start donating to that person. And at the end, what ends up forming is that you have you have what ends up forming is that all the candidates are going to be very rich people oriented. I don't know how else to put this. Very, very rich people oriented kind of representatives, whether be it conservative rich or liberal rich, which is basically what the Democratic Party and the Republican Party stand for in in 2021, and I'm sure whatever applies to your geography on this planet, the same thing is, I'm sure, applies to you. And and the other party is representative of progressive rich people. It's like conservative rich people on this side and progressive rich people on this side, because the rich people are the ones who are, have the money to attend this ceremony that is elections. Only rich people have the money to put up these parties and, put up these ads and let's get together. Only the rich. Who pays for this fucking thing? This three-ring circus that has become the whole process of, let's talk about this matter non-stop, happens like not within a year or after the guy takes office. The next election cycle starts. Why? You can print your ideas. Each candidate prints just an A4 kind of a paper, and you put the information down. It's like who wants to do what, and you just mail it to voters. Whoever reads your pamphlet, A or B, which one do you want to go? End of story. There's no need for advertisement. Advertisement is just taking the ship sideways. It's about to, because you're advertising your homeboy. What part of this you folks don't understand? When you allow advertisement, people advertise their friends, not their enemies. And when they advertise for their friends, so that the guys who's paying for this ad is a friend of that politician, is in the friend list. Okay, is in the friend list. Oh, so they have interest in their friends. Yes, they do. So are you serious? So basically, you have, who is represented are the rich people who are divided between conservative and progressive. But only these are represented by just rich people. So neither the conservative, poor conservative have a representative, nor the poor progressive has a representative. So only the rich have representative in a format that you have come up with that says money is okay. What do rich people have that poor people don't have? Money. When you say money is okay, that means, well, money is okay, I guess. And then you have only people who are friendly towards money occupying elected seats. What did you expect? Did they expect this not to happen? And you have on one side the progressives holding their hand out, literally begging on the road for, hey, $5 donation. Hey, why don't you throw in $5 in my bucket? I'm going to represent you. But then you have the other side who they don't have to put their bucket on the floor, beg on the street. They suck the right dick, and they just, the check for the campaign, a few checks are collected for the campaign, but those checks are really large. End of story. We have a few very select clientele. So you can say Mitch McConnell is the representative of the poorest state in the nation, and I couldn't put two and two together. How can such a conservative, physically conservative person be representing such a poor county? Is because he has very few clientele on that county, and those clientele want him there, so he's there. And But is this democracy? You want the few clientele who are the clients of said person, or I don't know anything about what I'm talking about in exact details, but what I do understand is if you represent the poor, if a person represents the poorest, one of the poorest states of a union of any sort, uh, one one would not be uh, so physically conservative to the point that let them eat cake. You'd be so physically conservative that not really bothering about the conditions. So it is what it is. Take it or leave it. My rich friends here don't want to spend, don't want to spend money to have their, co-citizenry live a better life, and they get away with it. And the most important reason has been because of this idea that money should be money is speech, and because there is free speech, freedom of speech, then I guess, and that means freedom of money, freedom of speech. And if you equivocate speech and money in elections, in election you say money can be considered as free speech, then you are basically saying whoever has money gets to set the rules. Then you're going to end up in a very feudal kind of, going back to from capitalism, going to feudalism, instead of moving on, or at least staying the same, or maybe moving on. You're going into a feudalist state in which if the rich is not your boss, the guy who sucks his dick is your boss. That's the politician. That's what it comes down to. I mean, feudalism was the rich owned you, the baron owned the land and owned, more or less owned, all the chattel on it, including the humans. That was still going on in England a couple of 100 years ago. But the point is this, that if you allow money into politics, my due respect, scouts of Supreme Court or judges of Supreme Courts, the idea becomes, when you equivocate money with speech and say whoever has more money can spend more money and advertise their speech more and bring their speech to the screens more, and whatever they do, if you allow that to happen, then you're going back to feudalism, with just a little difference, and that is only the rich are not going to be your dukes and barons, but the people who attend to the rich are going to be your overlords. The people who attend the rich are going to be your overlords. And those are the politicians. The people who attend the rich are going to be your overlords. This is the new kind of feudalism that can happen, that we are heading towards. The rich don't own people directly. The rich own people through the elected representative, because they are the ones actually paying for that election of that specific representative. So, I mean, I think the biggest problem here, that God forbid this thing may go sideways, this thing may go south. The only way to remedy that is to take the money out and just actually have a law and say, if you make it dime, you have to have a talk with the legislature. There should be pass a law that if not a dime of profit can be made through the election process. Nobody. It's illegal to make a dime in the election process. Make a dime of profit. Make it illegal to make a dime of profit in the election process. That is, money that is not supposed to change hand because of election process. The whole thing will become much more reasonable. And that's what you want in a democracy, is reason. We go back, but the problem with money is that with reason, still even with reason, you won't be able to sleep with the guy's wife. But with money you may. You see what I'm saying? The money is so much more powerful than speech. Money is much more powerful than reasoning. Money is power. Now, do you want to give money, which is power itself, the executive seat as well? The legislature seat as well? The judiciary seat as well? Do you want money to influence, have a big influence in everything? I understand, one of the recent judges had his bills paid off by a mysterious donor at the last moment. The point is this, that this is all money interest. So poor people don't have a representative in the legislature because, by just pretending that we don't have poor people, it just, it's just silly. It's like you're living in a society, you don't see them. I mean, but just ignoring that there are poor people doesn't make them go away. If the system that you're running, here's the thing, my dear judiciary body of all nations on earth, including Uncle Sam's, folks, you cannot approve the presence of money in politics. And my legislature friends, my judiciary friends, my legislature friend, you cannot allow money into politics. You have to outlaw it and say absolutely outlawed. You cannot make a dime in an election. If you make it as if nobody can make a dime, no money can exchange hands in any level about an election. Nothing. All citizens will receive a pamphlet from each candidate, a pamphlet of 5 pages from each candidate in the same envelope. That envelope is sent to every person in the judiciary, in under jurisdiction. Sent at the same night to everybody in the jurisdiction, 2 sets of pamphlets. One says will do what, and what kind of result they will get. They have a pamphlet, write down everything. Hey, we are planning on doing this much work with this much money and we want to achieve this result. Period. 2, 3, 4, 5. You can do the job done with one pamphlet. It's like one couple of page of pamphlet can be a simplified form of election. Here's a pamphlet, you read it. Actually, it can be done. Everybody who's living over here, who's citizen over here, come over here. On the same day, we give you the pamphlet, and you You have 30 minutes to read both of the pamphlet and then click the button you want. And you know, in reality, so basically, when you allow money in politics, you get a three-ring circus. Because you know, three-ring circus costs money. There's profit to be made. Becomes a whole, you know, circus. The whole process of election becomes a circus because you allowed money in. You know, now they can have dancing girls. They weren't able to have dancing girls before on the election night. Now they can get dancing girls. It's sort of like, so it's not an election. It's a process. It's a carnival. Election is here. This is their plan, and this kind of result they want to get. And Mexico will pay is not, you know, does not pass a pamphlet. I mean, talking about the woman's period on the national TV on the election night, it's far away from, and how big one's penis is as compared to others' penis. This is what you get when you allow money in elections. Because you get these extroverts who are, you know, all about me and very not very, let's just say, you don't get the A students. Your A students end up in Tucson. So folks, if you want your A students not going to Tucson but spending their lifetime in the legislature, your A students, you have to take out money out of politics. When you take the money factor out, the whole carnival factor goes away, and the whole preparations goes away. The whole thing goes away. The process becomes very simplified and very cheap to run and very simplified, and at the end because there is no show to do, you will get a lot of introvert applicants in your election process. A lot of introvert applicants, and those are the kind of applicants that you want. Those are the policy guys, the brainy guys. Those are the guys you want. But because you're running a three-ring circus, those guys don't like to participate in the three-ring circus. Those guys don't like to participate in three-ring circuses. They don't do well in three-ring circuses. I mean, you can have a nice, pleasant conversation with a very intelligent individual, but I bet he wouldn't be overjoyed if you tell him that you have to speak to 50,000 people every night for the next 3 months. He wouldn't be overjoyed. It's not that kind of a person. And these are your intelligent people. Intelligent people are not the kind of people who want to speak to 50,000 people every night for 6 months, for a year, for 2 years, 3 years. 3 years of elections. Those people you don't want. Those people are not intellectuals. Those people are not thinkers. Those people are party boys, frat boys who don't, extrovert frat boys who like, big places with big people and talking about nothing substantial anyway. You don't want those people. And those people go where the money is, where the party is. I mean, if you take the punch bowl away, would you think you get average George? Average George, if anything, anywhere he was, things got to deep talk, I'm sure Average George was the kind of guy who would just, feel uncomfortable and excuse himself and go chase some pussy. So, or, have a drink, or, go clear some hedges with his chainsaw. But the point is this: so you don't want that guy, because this is a thinking job. Those legislature positions are thinking jobs. Your election process is producing a lot of frat boys, because during their election process they have to be extremely extrovert and very shallow and very, kiss every baby and eat every hot dog. but then when it comes to actually legislating, they don't have a clue. They were good at that, being extrovert and look at me. Look how shiny my ass is. Like in a monkey speak, look how shiny how red my ass is. But the point is this: those kind of guys never become good legislatures, because they're party boys. Because they're party boys. Because they're party boys. They will never make good legislatures. They're not deep. They don't like to read. Like, literally, Mr. I believe Kane, who apparently passed away now, he actually said, yeah, let's cut down on the bill so I can fucking read them. No bill more than 3 pages. Thank God for people like him that straight out and say, yeah, I was elected to this office because I'm a fucking extrovert. I like to go out there party. I like to be around lots of people all the time. I'm not a fucking reader. If I was a reader, I wouldn't be elected. Because readers don't like to party every night with 50,000 people. So you have put the punch bowl of money into politics, and not only a lot of rich people get to, have more of their liquid in that punch bowl, have more say in the governance, because, they can pay their friends. But the friends tend to be all frat boys, because, rich people, parties, frat boys, rich people, parties, frat boys. Have you noticed this is the upper echelon of politics in recent times? A politics of, many places. And this is because you have put the honey ball, the punch ball of money in the middle of politics. It has attracted the frat boys, and it has attracted the rich boys. So the rich boys and the frat boys have all together having fun at the party. Now some of those frat boys, like Obama, you would say, yeah, he's okay. He did something for the poor. But then when you have Bush, and he's from another frat house, he got elected, and rich people liked him, just like rich people like Obama. Well, but the point is this: the rich have to like. So the one thing you cannot be is against the interest of the rich. The rich in your kind of election, where the punch bowl of money is in the middle of politics, if you do as the rich people want you to do, you're invited to the party to represent them in elections. If you don't, do the right thing, you're not invited to the damn party. So the rich people share their punch bowl of money with the kind of candidate that they prefer, who sing their tune. So you can never have money in elections. I mean, I would assume this is exactly where, Rome, lost its way. If you say democracy is the best form of the most brilliant people sat and came up with democracy, okay, fine. You cannot have money in it. Those same most brilliant people will, if you bring them back to life, will tell you that, yeah, we said democracy, but no, you can't allow the big landlord to be, the legislator's cousin. You can't have that. You can have that, but nobody should be making profit from this election. If it's free and fair, and the legislature actually free and fairly did get elected, it has to be without the help of his big landlord cousin, without financial help. If that is allowed, then you have full-fledged, feudalism, new feudalism, in which the instead of lords owning the land directly, lords own the people who own the land. Or instead of ruling over the land directly, the lords rule over the people who rule over the land. And the rich people rule over the people who rule over the land. That's if you allow this money to become a factor in democratic elections. You have to make it, just pass a piece of legislature, one word: no one shall make no exchange of money should take place because of election. Nobody should talk about it on advertised TV. They can talk about it on non-advertised TV, but on advertised TV, nobody. On advertised shows, no advertisement. People can talk about politics, but no advertisement. Especially if that show is about politics, it should not contain any ad before it or after it or during it. And we have one TV channel which does only politics all day long, and it's not supposed to make money, period. You want all your election news, you go to that channel, you go up and down and you wait, and you can pull up files and see who's getting elected, for what reason they're getting elected, for what position they're getting elected, and when is the election. You can make it as simple as the well-oiled machine. You can make it as simple as a well-oiled machine. You can make it as simple as a well-oiled machine, and half as much human productivity have to be spent on its advertisement. Let's remember, advertisement is a waste of human productivity. You're trying to over-inform people. That's advertisement. You don't need to over-inform me about your drugs. You don't need to over-inform me about your, no, you don't. You just don't. You don't need to over-inform anybody with advertisements about any candidate. Whatever they want to do, they write it in a pamphlet, they send it over, everybody looks at it, everybody reads it, and then they go and vote. Please, my dear legislatures of all jurisdictions on planet Earth, folks, you gotta remove money from your election process. If you say anything, if you want anything resembling a democracy to work, you have to remove the punch bowl from the process. The punch bowl of profit making because of this concept in election profit making. That should be made illegal. Sort of like separate your election process from your business process. They say separation of church and state. Now have separation of business and state. End of story. When you're mixing business and state, business has short-term goals. Business has profit in mind. But governance, legislature has to have a long view. Business wants to have a short view. The business wants to make money now, this quarter. Legislature must be thinking 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road. What happens if this happens and what happens if that happens? I mean, if the children are not getting educated, but there's lots of money for a $150,000 Javelin missile, you know that the guy who was producing that missile has paid a chunk of money in election funds to the campaign of such and such person. I don't even know any of these guys. But you know that guy, he's selling $150,000 per shoulder-fired Javelin missile. And up. The prices just go up. The guy said each Hellfire missile is like $72,000. I mean, you know, that's a lot of human productivity that is used for suppression. Why do you need so much suppression? Is so much suppression necessary? I mean, war used to be the last option. Now war is the first option. Oh, we don't like them? We go beat the shit out of them. That's what happens when the sword maker is allowed to, you know, imagine, forgive me, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but imagine the sword maker, the town had a few sword makers in the Roman time, and imagine these guys had a lot of campaign donation to a few of the senators in the Roman Senate. If these sword makers were paying, if money was, you know, was allowed into the Roman politics, then the sword makers, you know, military equipment makers would have had, you know, very close. If, you know, they also could have donated money to their favorite candidates and, you know, pay people off or buy votes. I don't know what they could do at that time. Advertise. Have 5 people in every corner of the bazaar screaming your candidate's name out that he's so good, he's Jesus Christ, and, you know, get elected. Again, yeah, that could happen. The same thing that goes wrong over there may go wrong over here if you allow money in politics. If you allow the people who have money to, you know, pick and choose the candidates that they like by more donations that they give them. And apparently more donations means more advertisement, and apparently more advertisement means the guys are, you know, have become superstitious, and, you know, they have lost the little education that they had because of, you know, nonsensical information that they receive. The point is this, dear lords and ladies of judiciary, you cannot equivocate money and speech. You cannot. You have to remove the punch bowl. Once you remove the punch bowl, the frat boys will go home. Only the brainiacs will remain in the room. and you want the brainiacs because the brainiacs, solve problems, don't create problems, and and everybody is a friend of a swordsman, the swords maker. Everybody is a friend. Everybody in the legislature and everybody, everybody in the legislature, not judiciary, but everybody in the legislature seems to be friends of the swordmen, sword makers. And if you're in the legislature and you're friends with the sword maker, shit, you're going to have one paranoid public, because the sword maker keeps making those swords, and you keep coming up with new excuses to use those swords and sell those swords and exchange those swords. And sword fighting becomes inevitable. It's like that's why these empires had so many casualties of war, because when sword makers get at the punch ball, then we're all screwed. Not a good idea. Please remove money from politics. Please remove money from your democracy. With money in democracy, only money in democracy attracts only rich boys and frat boys. Rich boys because when money is allowed in politics, they get to have a big say in it because they're rich. And frat boys just because they're the only kind that can go through a 3-ring circus of 3-year 3-ring extravaganza of election, of going around and jumping up and down, look at me. The brainiacs of the class don't like such a routine. Well, frat boys love it. So you get frat boys representing the rich boys. And then you have and the frat boys are really frat boys. They make mistakes. They go 2 million dead over there and 3 million dead over there, and fuck them and fuck the other ones. They're not my color. They're not my color.